Secrets of the Self-Made, written and published by Rich Audiobooks. The hardest truth about building wealth is that you're entirely on your own. While this might sound harsh, accepting this reality is your first step toward financial independence. Every day, millions of people wake up hoping their company will give them a raise, their government will provide better benefits, or some external force will improve their financial situation. They're waiting for a rescue that will never arrive. This waiting game is deeply ingrained in our collective psyche. From childhood, we're taught to look to authority figures for guidance, approval, and support. Teachers give us grades, parents provide structure, and bosses determine our worth in the workplace. This dependency pattern creates a dangerous illusion that someone else is responsible for our success. The wealthy think differently. They understand that the only person who will ever care enough about their financial future is themselves. When you truly internalize this truth, everything changes. You stop asking for permission, you quit waiting for the perfect moment, you cease expecting others to recognize your value and start demonstrating it through action. Consider the traditional career path most people follow. They spend years earning degrees, climbing corporate ladders, and hoping their dedication will eventually be rewarded with financial security. Yet companies downsize without warning, industries become obsolete overnight, and pensions vanish. The implied social contract between employer and employee has crumbled, but many still cling to its ghost. Lesson 1. No one is coming to save you. Taking radical responsibility for your financial future means acknowledging some uncomfortable truths. No one owes you a living. No one is obligated to hire you, promote you, or pay you what you think you're worth. Your education, experience, and hard work don't guarantee success. These realizations aren't meant to discourage you, they're meant to liberate. When you stop expecting external salvation, you begin to see opportunities everywhere. Instead of waiting for a promotion, you start a side business. Rather than hoping for recognition, you create value that can't be ignored. Where others see obstacles, you see chances to solve problems and generate wealth. This shift in perspective is transformative. The self-made wealthy aren't necessarily smarter, more talented, or luckier than others. They've simply embraced their role as the author of their financial story. They understand that every decision, from how they spend their time to how they invest their money, is their responsibility. They don't waste energy blaming circumstances, the economy, or other people for their situation. This mindset of extreme ownership extends beyond just financial decisions. It encompasses every aspect of life that impacts wealth building: your health, relationships, skills, and daily habits. The wealthy know that neglecting any of these areas can derail their financial goals. They take full responsibility for maintaining the machine that generates their wealth, themselves. Taking control of your financial destiny is both terrifying and exhilarating. It means facing the unknown without a safety net. It means making decisions without guarantees. It means accepting that your failures are your own, but so are your successes. This responsibility is the price of financial freedom, and it's non-negotiable. The moment you truly accept that no one is coming to save you is the moment your real wealth journey begins. It's when you stop looking for shortcuts, stop making excuses, and start taking decisive action. The path to wealth isn't hidden. It's just that most people are waiting for someone else to walk it for them. The only question that remains is, are you ready to walk it yourself? Lesson 2. Schools teach obedience, not wealth. The modern education system wasn't designed to create wealthy people. It was engineered to produce reliable workers. This uncomfortable truth becomes clear when we examine the historical roots of public education, which emerged during the Industrial Revolution to create a standardized workforce for factories and offices. The bell schedule, rigid seating arrangements, and emphasis on following directions weren't accidents. They were features deliberately built to instill compliance. Think about what's rewarded in traditional schooling: following instructions precisely, staying quiet, asking permission, completing assigned tasks on schedule, and accepting authority without question. These behaviors might create excellent employees, but they're often antagonistic to entrepreneurial success. The very traits that earn A's in school, perfectionism, risk aversion, and deference to authority, can become obstacles when building wealth. The financial education provided in schools is particularly lacking. Most students graduate without understanding basic concepts like compound interest, tax strategy, or business fundamentals. Instead of teaching wealth creation, schools focus on preparing students for employment, writing resumes, interviewing skills, and professional etiquette. While these skills have their place, they reinforce the employee mindset rather than an ownership mentality. Or insidiously, traditional education instills limiting beliefs about money and success. Students learn that financial success comes from climbing predetermined career ladders, that security means having a steady paycheck, and that risk-taking is dangerous. These mental models become deeply ingrained, creating invisible barriers to wealth creation that many never overcome. The system teaches us to trade time for money rather than build assets that generate passive income. The path to financial independence requires unlearning many lessons from formal education. Instead of seeking approval, successful entrepreneurs learn to trust their judgment. Rather than avoiding mistakes, they embrace failure as feedback. Where schools teach specialization, wealth often comes from synthesizing knowledge across disciplines. The rigid structures of academia must give way to flexible, adaptive thinking. Building real-world business acumen requires a different educational approach. While schools emphasize theoretical knowledge, wealth creation demands practical experience. Instead of memorizing facts for tests, successful entrepreneurs learn through action, launching products, and solving real problems. They develop street smarts alongside book smarts, understanding that business success often depends more on execution than abstract knowledge. The most valuable business lessons rarely come from textbooks. They're learned through trial and error, mentor relationships, and direct market feedback. Successful entrepreneurs often create their own curriculum, combining self-directed learning with practical application. They read voraciously but selectively, focusing on actionable insights rather than academic theory. They seek out mentors who have achieved what they want to accomplish, learning from real-world experience rather than theoretical models. Your real education begins when you start questioning the assumptions instilled by traditional schooling. Challenge the notion that security comes from employment. Question whether credentials truly equal capability. Examine whether the path to wealth really requires following predetermined steps. The most successful entrepreneurs aren't necessarily the best students. They're the ones who learn to think independently and take action despite uncertainty. Rather than abandoning education entirely, successful wealth builders create their own personalized learning system. They combine formal knowledge with practical experience, seeking out information that directly supports their goals. They develop networks of like-minded people who challenge their thinking and expand their possibilities. Most importantly, they maintain a beginner's mindset, remaining open to new ideas while testing everything through real-world application. Lesson 3. Sales skills print money. The most fundamental truth about wealth creation is rarely discussed in academic settings. Your ability to sell determines your ability to earn. While schools focus on technical skills and theoretical knowledge, the art of ethical persuasion remains the highest-paid profession across every industry and market. Sales isn't about manipulating people or pushing unwanted products. It's about effectively communicating value and solving problems. Every successful entrepreneur, regardless of their field, has mastered the ability to sell their ideas, products, or services. Even if you never work in traditional sales, you're constantly selling your ideas in meetings, selling your capabilities in job interviews, or selling your vision to potential partners and investors. Resistance many feel towards selling stems from outdated stereotypes and misconceptions about what modern sales entails. Today's most successful salespeople are problem solvers who listen more than they talk. They ask thoughtful questions, understand their customers' needs deeply, and present solutions that genuinely improve lives. This consultative approach has replaced the aggressive, pressure-based tactics of the past. The beauty of sales skills is that they compound over time. Each interaction teaches you more about human psychology, buying behavior, and effective communication. You learn to read nonverbal cues, handle objections gracefully, and guide conversations toward mutual benefit. These abilities transfer seamlessly across different products, services, and industries, making you increasingly valuable in any business context. Fear of rejection holds many back from developing their sales abilities. Yet rejection is simply information, feedback, that helps you refine your approach. The most successful salespeople have been rejected more times than most people have even attempted to sell. They've learned that no often means not yet, or not like this, rather than an absolute rejection. This resilience and ability to maintain enthusiasm despite setbacks is a superpower in business. The financial impact of strong sales skills extends far beyond commission checks. When you can consistently generate revenue, you gain leverage in negotiations, attract better opportunities, and create more options for yourself. Businesses will always value those who can bring in new customers and increase revenue. This makes sales skills a form of career insurance. Even in economic downturns, strong salespeople remain in demand. Developing your sales abilities starts with changing your perspective on what selling means. Begin seeing it as a service, helping people make decisions that benefit them. Practice active listening, learn to ask better questions, and focus on understanding before being understood. Study the psychology of decision-making and the art of building rapport. Most importantly, seek out opportunities to sell in low-stakes situations where you can experiment and learn without pressure. The digital age hasn't diminished the importance of sales skills, it's amplified them. Whether through social media, email, video calls, or traditional face-to-face meetings, the fundamental principles of human persuasion remain constant. The platforms may change, but the psychology of influence endures. Those who master these principles while embracing new technologies create unprecedented opportunities for wealth creation. Every significant business transaction ultimately comes down to a sale. The most brilliant product or service means nothing if you can't convince others of its value. By developing your sales skills, you're not just learning how to close deals, you're learning how to transform ideas into reality, create value for others, and build wealth in the process. The ability to sell effectively is quite literally a license to print money, limited only by your willingness to master the craft and apply it ethically. Lesson 4. Confidence beats credentials. In today's hyper-connected world, the truth about success has become increasingly clear. Genuine confidence and the ability to deliver results consistently outweigh formal credentials. While universities continue churning out graduates with advanced degrees, the marketplace rewards those who can solve real problems and create genuine value, regardless of their educational background. The modern economy has exposed a fascinating paradox. As higher education becomes more expensive and widespread, its relative value continues to decline. This isn't to say education isn't valuable, it's that the traditional signals of competence no longer carry the weight they once did. In a world where information is freely available and skills can be acquired through multiple channels, the ability to act decisively and project authentic confidence has become a more reliable predictor of success. Consider the rise of tech entrepreneurs who dropped out of college to build billion-dollar companies, or the social media influencers who generate more income than many professionals with advanced degrees. These people didn't succeed because they lacked education. They succeeded because they understood that confidence, combined with practical skills and real-world experience, creates more value than credentials alone. This shift represents a fundamental change in how success is achieved in the modern economy. True confidence comes from competence, and competence comes from doing, not just studying. When you consistently take action, learn from your experiences, and adapt your approach, you develop a level of self-assurance that no degree can provide. This practical confidence becomes evident in how you carry yourself, communicate your ideas, and approach challenges. The most successful self-made people share a common trait. They focused on building their confidence through progressive achievement rather than collecting certificates. They understood that every small win, every problem solved, and every obstacle overcome contributed to their personal foundation of authentic confidence. This confidence then became a self-reinforcing cycle. The more they achieved, the more confident they became, which led to taking on bigger challenges and achieving even more. However, building genuine confidence requires a strategic approach. It starts with identifying areas where you can create immediate value and taking action, even if you don't feel fully prepared. Each successful interaction, each problem solved, and each satisfied customer or client builds your confidence more than any classroom experience could. This approach also helps you develop a crucial skill that credentials can't teach: the ability to learn and adapt in real time based on direct feedback from the market. The real power of confidence lies in its ability to open doors that credentials alone cannot. When you truly believe in your ability to deliver value, you naturally communicate this belief to others. This authentic self-assurance makes people more likely to trust you, work with you, and invest in your ideas. It's why confident entrepreneurs often secure funding and partnerships even when they're competing against more credentialed alternatives. Building this type of confidence requires pushing beyond your comfort zone regularly. It means taking calculated risks, being willing to fail publicly, and learning from those failures without letting them diminish your self-belief. It's about developing the emotional resilience to handle rejection and setbacks while maintaining your forward momentum. This kind of resilience isn't taught in schools, but is essential for long-term success in any endeavor. The path to wealth in the modern economy belongs to those who can combine confidence with competence, regardless of their formal education. By focusing on building real-world skills, delivering tangible results, and developing authentic confidence through action, you position yourself for success in ways that traditional credentials simply cannot match. The market ultimately cares about what you can do, not what degrees you hold, and confident action takers will always have an advantage over passive credential collectors. Lesson 5. You don't need permission to start. The permission paradox has trapped countless potential entrepreneurs in a state of perpetual waiting. We've been conditioned from our earliest years to raise our hands, ask for approval, and wait for someone in authority to validate our choices. This deeply ingrained pattern follows us into adulthood, where we unconsciously seek permission to pursue our dreams, start businesses, or create wealth. But here's the liberating truth. No one is going to give you formal permission to become successful. The most successful entrepreneurs didn't wait for someone to anoint them as qualified or ready. They simply began. They understood that action precedes clarity and perfection is the enemy of progress. The market doesn't care about your credentials, your preparation time, or your perfectly crafted business plan. It only responds to value being created and problems being solved. Starting with zero capital or experience isn't just possible, it's often advantageous. When you begin with nothing, you're forced to be creative, resourceful, and focused on generating immediate revenue. Many successful businesses began as simple side hustles, tested in the real world while their founders maintained day jobs. This approach minimizes risk while maximizing learning opportunities. Your first attempt doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to exist. The internet and digital tools have demolished most traditional barriers to entry. You can launch a website, start a social media project, or create digital products with minimal investment. The real currency isn't money, it's courage. The willingness to put yourself and your ideas into the world, despite inevitable criticism and potential failure, is what separates entrepreneurs from dreamers. Perfectionism is often disguised permission-seeking. We tell ourselves we need more research, more preparation, or better timing, but these are usually forms of procrastination born from fear. The antidote is taking imperfect action, launching before you feel ready, sharing your work before it's polished, and learning from real market feedback rather than theoretical planning. The concept of minimum viable product, MVP, embodies this philosophy perfectly. Instead of spending months or years developing the perfect offering, create the simplest version that solves the core problem. Release it quickly, gather feedback, and iterate based on actual user experience. This approach not only accelerates learning, but also prevents the wasteful pursuit of features or perfections that the market doesn't actually value. The permission-free mindset extends beyond business launches. It applies to raising prices, entering new markets, or pursuing ambitious goals. Many entrepreneurs artificially limit their success by waiting for some external validation that they're qualified to charge premium prices or serve high-end clients. The truth is that value, not permission, determines your worth in the marketplace. Starting without permission requires embracing uncertainty and becoming comfortable with feeling unqualified. Every successful entrepreneur began as a novice, learning through action rather than waiting for expertise to magically appear. They understood that authority is often created through bold action rather than bestowed through traditional channels. The most powerful permission you can give yourself is the authorization to learn through doing. Every misstep and mistake becomes valuable data when you adopt this mindset. The market will tell you what works and what doesn't, but only if you're actively participating rather than preparing from the sidelines. Your imperfect action today is worth more than your perfect plan tomorrow. Lesson 6. Debt is a tool, not a trap. Most people have been taught to fear debt like a disease, but wealthy people understand that debt is simply a tool, one that can either build or destroy wealth depending on how it's wielded. The key distinction lies in understanding the fundamental difference between good debt and bad debt. Good debt helps you acquire assets that appreciate in value or generate income, while bad debt funds depreciating assets or consumption. Consider a credit card used to buy a new television. versus a business loan used to purchase income-producing equipment. The television begins losing value the moment you bring it home, while the equipment can generate returns that exceed your borrowing costs. This simple example illustrates how debt can be transformed from a burden into a lever for wealth creation. The wealthy have long understood the power of using other people's money, OPM, to accelerate their growth. When you can borrow at 5% to invest in opportunities returning 15%, each dollar of debt becomes a wealth multiplier. Real estate investors regularly use this principle by making down payments of 20% while controlling 100% of an appreciating asset. The rental income covers the mortgage payment while providing additional cash flow, and the property's value increases over time. Strategic borrowing requires careful analysis of risk versus reward. Before taking on debt, calculate the total cost of borrowing, including interest and fees, against the realistic potential returns. Consider your ability to service the debt, even if things don't go according to plan. The goal is to use debt as a calculated instrument for wealth building, not a gamble that could lead to financial ruin. Many successful entrepreneurs have used debt to scale their businesses rapidly. Instead of waiting years to save up capital, they've borrowed to fund inventory, marketing, or equipment that immediately generated more revenue than the cost of the loans. This acceleration can mean the difference between capturing market share and missing opportunities entirely. The key is ensuring that borrowed funds are invested in areas that produce measurable returns. Restructuring existing debt can also create opportunities for wealth building. Consolidating high-interest consumer debt into lower-interest loans frees up cash flow that can be invested productively. Refinancing mortgages when rates are favorable can reduce monthly payments or provide access to equity that can be deployed into other investments. Smart debt management becomes a cornerstone of financial strategy. The wealthy also understand how to use tax advantages associated with certain types of debt. Mortgage interest deductions, business loan write-offs, and other tax benefits can significantly reduce the effective cost of borrowing. This understanding of the tax code transforms debt from a necessary evil into a strategic advantage in building wealth. Perhaps most importantly, the wealthy maintain a healthy relationship with debt. They don't let it control their decisions or create stress. Instead, they view it dispassionately as one of many financial tools at their disposal. They know exactly how much they owe, to whom, at what rates, and have clear plans for using that leverage to generate returns. This emotional detachment allows them to make rational decisions about when to take on debt and when to avoid it. Breaking free from the fear of debt doesn't mean becoming reckless with borrowing. It means developing the financial intelligence to understand when debt can accelerate your path to wealth and when it can derail it. The self-made wealthy aren't debt-free. They're debt-smart. They use leverage strategically, always ensuring that borrowed money is put to work generating returns that exceed the cost of capital. This sophisticated approach to debt management separates those who remain trapped in the middle class from those who build lasting wealth. Lesson 7. Time freedom is the real flex. The greatest myth of wealth creation is that you need to work harder and longer to make more money. The reality is that true wealth comes from breaking free of the time for money trap. While others brag about their 80-hour work weeks and hustle culture, the genuinely successful understand that time freedom is the ultimate form of wealth. The conventional employment model teaches us to trade our precious hours for a paycheck, creating an inherent ceiling on our earning potential. No matter how high your hourly rate or salary becomes, you're still limited by the finite number of hours in a day. The key to breaking this constraint lies in building systems and assets that generate income whether you're actively working or not. This transformation begins with a fundamental shift in thinking about productivity. Instead of asking, "How can I do more?" start asking, "How can I create systems that work without me?" This might mean developing digital products, building automated marketing funnels, creating content that generates passive advertising revenue, or investing in assets that appreciate over time. The goal is to divorce your income from your direct time investment. The most powerful approach to achieving time freedom is leveraging other people's time, skills, and resources. Many entrepreneurs stay stuck in self-employment because they can't let go of control. They become the bottleneck in their own business, handling everything from customer service to accounting. Building a true business means creating documented processes that others can execute, then hiring and training people to run these systems. Your role should evolve from doer to architect and strategist. Technology has dramatically expanded our ability to create leverage. Automation tools can handle everything from email marketing to social media posting to customer onboarding. Artificial intelligence can generate content, analyze data, and perform tasks that once required human intervention. The smart entrepreneur looks for opportunities to implement these tools to reduce manual work and increase scalability. The concept of work-life integration supersedes the outdated notion of work-life balance. When you build systems that generate wealth without consuming your time, the traditional boundaries between work and leisure become fluid. You might take a month-long vacation while your business continues to thrive, or spend your mornings with family while your automated systems generate sales. This isn't about working less, it's about having the freedom to choose when and how you work. Creating time freedom requires strategic elimination as much as it does system building. Examine every activity in your business and personal life through the lens of leverage. Ask yourself, is this the highest and best use of my time? Could this be automated, delegated, or eliminated? Often, the activities that consume most of our time contribute least to our wealth and happiness. The ultimate measure of success isn't the size of your bank account, it's the ownership of your time. True wealth means having the freedom to spend your days exactly as you choose, whether that's pursuing new business ventures, traveling the world, or simply being present with loved ones. While others chase the outward symbols of success like expensive cars or designer clothes, focus on building the systems and assets that deliver genuine time freedom. That's the real flex that most people never achieve, and it's available to anyone willing to think differently about the relationship between time and money. Time freedom isn't an endpoint, but a continuous journey of optimization. As your systems mature and your wealth grows, you'll find new opportunities to leverage your time more effectively. The goal is to constantly increase your impact while decreasing your direct time investment, creating a virtuous cycle of freedom and abundance. Lesson 8. Fail fast and often. Two most successful people in history share one surprising commonality. They've failed more times than most people have even tried. This reality stands in stark contrast to our educational conditioning, where failure is treated as something to avoid at all costs. The truth is that failure isn't just an acceptable part of the journey to wealth, it's an essential accelerator. Think of failure as expensive tuition in the real-world university of success. Each failed attempt, each mistake, and each setback carries valuable lessons that cannot be learned any other way. The key difference between those who ultimately succeed and those who remain stuck isn't their ability to avoid failure, it's their response to it. The wealthy embrace failure as feedback, while the average treat it as a final verdict on their capabilities. The concept of failing fast comes from the technology sector, where rapid iteration and testing are fundamental to innovation. This same principle applies to building wealth. Instead of spending months or years planning the perfect business, product, or investment strategy, successful entrepreneurs launch quickly with a minimal viable offering and adjust based on real-world feedback. They understand that no amount of planning can replace the lessons learned from actual market interaction. This approach requires a complete mindset shift from what we're taught in traditional education. Rather than studying for weeks to ensure you pass a test, the wealth-breeding mindset encourages you to take the test immediately, fail it, learn exactly what you don't know, and retake it with improved knowledge. This cycle of rapid failure and adjustment builds both resilience and practical expertise far faster than cautious preparation ever could. The financial cost of failure is often far less than the cost of inaction. While losing money on a failed business venture might sting, the opportunity cost of never starting, of letting years pass while waiting for the perfect moment, is usually much higher. The wealthy understand this math intuitively. They know that a quick failure that costs $1,000, 0 cents, but teaches a crucial lesson is far better than spending years in analysis paralysis, missing countless opportunities worth potentially millions. Building anti-fragility, the ability to become stronger from setbacks rather than merely resilient to them, requires systematic exposure to failure. Start small, fail small, learn, and gradually increase your exposure as your capability and confidence grow. This might mean starting with a small e-commerce store for failed building a full retail operation, or testing a consulting concept with one client before building an entire agency. The most valuable aspect of frequent failure is the speed at which it develops your judgment. Each failure refines your ability to spot opportunities, identify risks, and make better decisions. This accelerated learning process creates a compound effect. Every failure makes you slightly better at evaluating the next opportunity, leading to progressively better outcomes over time. Fear of failure often masks itself as perfectionism or careful planning. Many aspiring entrepreneurs spend countless hours perfecting business plans, designing logos, or building elaborate websites before ever testing their core business concept with actual customers. The wealthy take the opposite approach. They test core assumptions quickly and cheaply, often with embarrassingly simple products or minimal viable products. Creating a personal framework for handling failure transforms it from a dreaded outcome into a powerful tool. Document your failures, extract the lessons, adjust your approach, and immediately apply these insights to your next attempt. This systematic approach to failure creates a feedback loop that continuously improves your decision-making and accelerates your path to wealth. The pathway to extraordinary success is paved with ordinary failures. Every significant breakthrough in business, technology, or wealth creation came after numerous failed attempts. By embracing failure as a necessary step in the wealth-building process, you position yourself to learn faster, adapt more quickly, and ultimately succeed where others remain paralyzed by the fear of imperfection. Lesson 9. Ownership equals leverage. The fundamental difference between the wealthy and the working class isn't intelligence, education, or even luck. It's ownership. While most people spend their lives trading hours for dollars, the truly prosperous understand that ownership creates exponential returns through leverage. This leverage allows them to multiply their impact and income without proportionally increasing their time investment. Consider two people starting businesses in the same industry. The first person creates a job for themselves, essentially becoming a self-employed service provider. They might make good money, but their income remains directly tied to their personal effort. The second person builds systems, hires teams, and creates intellectual property. They're building an asset that can work without their constant presence. The first person owns a job. The second owns a business. Ownership extends far beyond traditional business structures. In today's digital economy, intellectual property has become one of the most powerful forms of leverage. Creating and owning content, courses, software, patents, or branded systems allows you to produce value once and sell it infinitely. This multiplication effect is what separates six-figure earners from seven- and eight-figure entrepreneurs. The ownership mindset requires a fundamental shift in how you view work and value creation. Instead of asking, "How much can I earn per hour?" start asking, "What can I create that generates value even when I'm not working?" This shift leads to building assets rather than simply trading time for money. These assets might include automated systems, digital products, real estate, investment portfolios, or businesses that operate independently of their owners. Smart entrepreneurs understand that ownership isn't just about controlling assets. It's about creating mechanisms that generate wealth while they sleep. They focus on building and owning distribution channels, customer relationships, and market position. They recognize that owning the platform is often more valuable than being the talent on the platform. This explains why social media companies are worth billions, while most content creators struggle to make ends meet. The path to leveraged ownership often starts small. You might begin by creating standard operating procedures for your service business, effectively turning your knowledge into an asset. You could develop a proprietary methodology that differentiates your offering from competitors. Each step towards systemization and asset creation increases your leverage and decreases your personal involvement in day-to-day operations. True leverage comes from owning things that appreciate or generate income without your active involvement. This could mean owning real estate that appreciates while tenants pay down your mortgage, holding equity in growing companies, or creating digital products that sell automatically. The key is to transition from being the primary producer to being the owner of production systems. The most sophisticated entrepreneurs understand that ownership also means controlling the means of value creation in their industry. They don't just own products or services. They own the platforms, the distribution channels, and the systems that other entrepreneurs rely on to reach their customers. This meta-level ownership creates compound leverage, where each new participant in their ecosystem increases the value of their ownership stake. The ultimate form of leverage through ownership comes from building and owning things that become more valuable over time with minimal additional input. This could be a brand that gains strength with each satisfied customer, a network that becomes more valuable as it grows, or intellectual property that generates increasing returns as markets expand. These assets create a flywheel effect, where ownership becomes increasingly valuable without proportional increase in effort or investment. Lesson 10. Taxes are optional with the right strategies. The moment you realize that taxes are largely voluntary for the wealthy, your entire perspective on wealth building transforms. While employees have their taxes automatically deducted from their paychecks, business owners and investors have tremendous flexibility in how and when they pay taxes. This isn't about evasion, it's about understanding and legally utilizing the tax code to your advantage. The tax system was designed to incentivize certain behaviors that benefit the economy. When you create jobs, invest in real estate, or fund research and development, the government rewards you with tax benefits. These aren't loopholes, they're deliberate features of the system that most people simply never learn to use. The wealthy don't pay lower taxes because they're breaking rules. They pay lower taxes because they're following different rules entirely. Consider real estate investments. Through depreciation, mortgage interest deductions, and 1031 exchanges, property investors can legally defer or eliminate massive tax obligations while building generational wealth. Business owners can write off legitimate expenses that employees can't, from home offices to vehicles to entertainment, when it serves a business purpose. The key is structuring your activities properly from the start and maintaining meticulous documentation. Entity structure becomes crucial as your wealth grows. The difference between operating as a sole proprietorship versus an S corporation or a Class 6 corporation can mean tens of thousands in tax savings annually. Strategic timing of income recognition, thoughtful compensation planning, and proper classification of revenue streams can dramatically impact your tax burden. But these strategies require advanced planning. You can't wait until tax season to start thinking about optimization. International tax planning opens up even more possibilities as your business scales. By properly structuring foreign entities and understanding territorial tax systems, entrepreneurs can legally optimize their global tax position. This isn't about hidden offshore accounts. It's about understanding how different jurisdictions treat various types of income and structuring operations accordingly. The wealthy also think differently about timing. They know when to accelerate expenses and when to defer income. They understand how to harvest tax losses strategically and offset gains. They recognize that it's not just about how much you make, but when and how you recognize that income. This level of tax awareness becomes a competitive advantage that compounds over time. But perhaps most importantly, the wealthy invest in expert guidance. They build relationships with skilled CPAs and tax attorneys who understand both the letter and spirit of tax law. These advisors don't just file returns, they provide proactive planning and strategic counsel throughout the year. The fees paid for high-level tax advice typically pale in comparison to the savings generated. The reality is that the tax code is essentially a series of incentives designed to reward certain economic behaviors. When you align your business and investment activities with these incentives, you're not gaming the system, you're using it exactly as intended. This requires education, planning, and sometimes complex structuring. But the financial impact can be transformative. Your effective tax rate becomes a choice rather than an obligation, determined by how you organize your affairs rather than simply how much you earn. Learning to navigate the tax landscape strategically isn't just about keeping more of what you make, it's about understanding how to structure your wealth-building activities for maximum efficiency from the start. This knowledge transforms taxes from a dreaded burden into a powerful tool for accelerating wealth creation. Lesson 11. People skills pay more than IQ. Raw intelligence is overrated in the pursuit of wealth. While schools emphasize test scores and academic achievement, the real world rewards those who can understand, connect with, and influence others. The most brilliant minds often struggle financially, while those with average IQs but exceptional people skills build empires. Your ability to read a room, understand unspoken dynamics, and navigate complex relationships will take you further than any degree or certification. Consider how many technically brilliant people you've met who can't seem to advance because they lack basic emotional intelligence. Meanwhile, those who master the art of human connection seem to effortlessly attract opportunities, partnerships, and resources. These people skills manifest in countless ways that directly impact wealth building. The ability to negotiate effectively can save or earn you millions over a lifetime. Understanding what motivates different personalities helps you build high-performing teams and close major deals. Emotional intelligence lets you detect subtle shifts in business relationships before they become problems. Even basic likability opens doors that remain firmly closed to those who neglect their interpersonal abilities. The good news is that people skills can be learned and developed, unlike IQ, which is relatively fixed. Start by becoming genuinely curious about others. Ask questions about their lives, dreams, and challenges. Practice active listening instead of waiting for your turn to speak. Watch for nonverbal cues that reveal what people are really thinking and feeling beneath their words. Developing emotional intelligence requires regular practice in real-world situations. Join networking groups, attend industry events, and put yourself in social situations that stretch your comfort zone. Pay attention to how successful people navigate different personalities and mirror their effective behaviors. Notice how they make others feel valued and important. The highest-paid people in almost any field are rarely the most technically skilled. They're the ones who can build relationships, inspire teams, negotiate deals, and connect with clients on a human level. Look at any wealthy entrepreneur and you'll find someone who excels at understanding and influencing others. Technical skills might get you in the door, but people skills get you to the penthouse. This human element becomes even more crucial as artificial intelligence and automation advance. While machines can process information faster than any human brain, they cannot replicate authentic human connection, empathy, and emotional intelligence. As routine cognitive tasks become automated, the ability to build trust and rapport with others becomes increasingly valuable. Make a conscious effort to expand your emotional vocabulary and awareness. Learn to recognize and name subtle emotional states in yourself and others. Understanding the full spectrum of human emotion helps you connect more deeply and influence more effectively. This emotional literacy translates directly into business success. Wealth rarely comes from working in isolation. It comes from coordinating resources, people, and opportunities, all of which require sophisticated people skills. The most valuable deals, partnerships, and opportunities often emerge from relationships rather than raw capability. Your network and your ability to leverage it effectively will ultimately determine your net worth. The path to wealth requires building genuine connections with others while maintaining healthy boundaries. It means understanding human nature deeply enough to align others' interests with your goals. Master these human elements, and you'll find that doors open more easily, negotiations go more smoothly, and opportunities multiply naturally. In the end, your EQ, your emotional quotient, will likely contribute more to your financial success than your IQ ever. Lesson 12. Wealth comes from solving problems, not getting grades. The modern education system has conditioned us to believe that high grades translate to high income. This fundamental misunderstanding has led countless bright minds down a path of academic excellence that rarely delivers the promised financial rewards. The truth is startlingly simple. Wealth flows to those who solve meaningful problems for others, regardless of their GPA or academic credentials. Consider the world's most successful entrepreneurs. Bill Gates dropped out of Harvard to solve the problem of personal computing accessibility. Sarah Blakely addressed women's undergarment issues with Spanx while having no formal business education. Neither of these people earned their fortunes by acing exams or writing perfect papers. They identified real-world problems and created solutions that millions of people wanted. The marketplace doesn't care about your report card. It cares about the value you create. This reality becomes clear when you examine how money actually flows in the economy. Customers don't pay for your knowledge. They pay for the application of that knowledge in ways that make their lives better. A brilliant physicist who can't translate their understanding into practical solutions will likely earn less than a mediocre student who excels at identifying and fixing people's immediate problems. Problem solving as a path to wealth requires a fundamental shift in thinking. Instead of asking, "What do I need to learn?" start asking, "What problems can I solve?" This shift moves you from passive acquisition of knowledge to active creation of value. Every successful business, product, or service exists because it addresses a pain point, fulfills a desire, or eliminates a frustration for its target market. The size of the problem you solve directly correlates with your potential wealth. Small problems yield small rewards. Big problems, those affecting many people or businesses, create opportunities for significant wealth creation. This explains why software companies can become so valuable so quickly. They often solve problems at scale, with minimal marginal cost for each additional user. The best part about this approach is that you don't need to wait for permission or credentials to begin. Problem solving is a skill that improves with practice, and the world is full of problems waiting to be solved. Start small by identifying issues in your immediate environment, workplace, or community. What frustrates people? What tasks take too long? What services are overpriced or undelivered? Developing your problem-solving muscles requires active engagement with the world around you. Observe how successful businesses operate. What problems do they solve, and how do they monetize their solutions? Study failed ventures too. Often they failed not because their solution was bad, but because they were solving a problem nobody cared enough about to pay for. The most profitable problems to solve often sit at the intersection of your skills, interests, and market demand. Your unique experiences and perspective might allow you to see solutions that others miss. The key is to remain focused on creating genuine value rather than chasing grades or credentials. When you solve real problems, the money follows naturally. Your education shouldn't stop after formal schooling, but its focus should shift from earning grades to developing practical problem-solving abilities. Read books, take courses, and seek mentorship, not for the certificates, but for the enhanced capability to identify and solve valuable problems. Network with others not to collect business cards, but to understand the challenges different industries and people face. Problem solving as a wealth-building strategy requires patience, persistence, and constant refinement. Not every solution will work, and not every problem is worth solving. But by maintaining a problem-solving mindset and continuously looking for ways to create value for others, you position yourself to build sustainable wealth that far exceeds what any perfect GPA could provide.